live, I believe. Doesn't say online yet. Here we go. Good morning, y'all. It's Ned over my Philippine Dreams, N to the E to the D over at MPD, coming at you from Dumaguete City, the city of gentle people, Negros Oriental, the Philippines. Welcome to another episode of This Week in the Philippines. This episode is for October 14th, 2016. Oh, the time, it is a-flying. Tempus fugit. Before we get into the topics, and if you want, there's a link down in the video description with the link over to the article that I wrote up yesterday talking about 3 things that have happened recently that might affect expatriate life in the Philippines, so you can check that out. It should be down there. I don't know if I saved it or not. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say this episode of This Week in the Philippines is brought to you by myphilippinedreams.com. Yes, myphilippinedreams.com, your go-to website for the good, the bad, and sometimes the downright ugly of living, retiring, studying, or working in the Philippines. Thank you to myphilippinedreams.com. It's a great site. Also, if you go over there, you can get our free 53-page ebook on some of the things to prepare yourself for visiting or living over here, going to school, all that stuff. Again, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we have to cover all 3 things. But before we get into that, let's talk about some things that are going on here. We have a scheduled brownout all day Sunday here in Dumaguete, and I believe it's extending all the way down to Shouton, to northern Sibulan. So it's a big brownout. And if you're not on the Norrico site, if you're living, no matter where you're living in the Philippines, it's good to get on their Facebook page of your local regional electrical provider, because a lot of times they'll have scheduled brownouts, and they do these scheduled brownouts so they can cut back the vegetation, the encroaching jungle, because this place, I mean, things just grow here like you don't believe. And to make sure, because you don't want to be, having something scheduled or something, and all of a sudden there's an 8 or 9 hour brownout. So that's happening on Sunday. Michelle and I are probably going to be going traveling somewhere. We're thinking about Siquijor to get away, because, I mean, when there's a brownout, I mean, your options are rather limited. You can go down to Darwin for the day and hang out in the shade on the beach, which isn't too bad. Or you can go to the mall, which is everybody and their brothers at the mall, and it's kind of crazy. So your options are rather limited. So, when there's a brownout, we try to do something. We try to have something scheduled. Speaking of encroaching vegetation, the malunggay trees in our backyard, I'm going to be putting up a video on this at some point, had grown out of control. One of them was like almost, 30, 40, that might be an exaggeration, feet tall. And what the malunggay sucked the life out of the soil also. So we had a couple mango trees in the backyard that were being basically killed by these giant malunggay. So we had a guy come in yesterday, one of our landlord's workers, and when he came in, he didn't even have a bolo. He had nothing, no ladder, no bolo, and I'm like, how are you going to do this? And he grabbed our bolo, because we have a bolo. He got a cord and wrapped it around his waist, and he just started climbing the malunggay trees, because around the perimeter in the back there's all these electrical wires, and if he just chopped the tree down and the tree went down whole, it would knock out power to the entire community. So we don't want to do that. So what he did was he climbed up and he topped it. He'd go up and he'd cut off 6 feet, then another 6 feet, another 6 feet. And I forgot that these guys can do that. They can just scamper up trees. They weigh about 120 pounds. Like if I was to try the same thing, I'd be dead. So, and the malunggay it's a softwood. So I was always concerned that it was going to break and he was going to plummet to his death, and we have no homeowner's insurance. So that could have been a problem. But it didn't happen. So yes, there's brownout. The malunggay trees in our backyard's a mess right now. I'm looking out at it. It's just a mess. On the good news, we try to track our expenses. We haven't done a monthly expense report for a little while, but electricity last month, I believe the month before it was like 3,700, because it's hot. El Nino is still, the tail of El Nino. So, but this past month's electrical bill was 2,800, which is very reasonable. We use aircon. I still use aircon a lot, but again, the ambient temperature has come down so the air conditioner doesn't have to struggle as much. So that's pretty cool. All right, we're getting ready to get into This Week in the Philippines, the 3 topics that we're going to be talking about. But before we do that, I thought I'd just go to the comments, check on the comments. Scott Parnell, Good morning, Ned. Scott, are you in Hawaii? Because you always say aloha. Oh, Hawaii would be nice. I lived in Hawaii for a little while. It was beautiful. Andrew Lutz, what's up, Ned? Not a whole lot, just doing the podcast or the live cast. And this is interesting. I know some people don't like this format, and some people aren't going to watch it, and that's all good. But it's good for me, and I'm a very self-centered, egocentric person, because it hones my verbal skills and trying to keep the train of trying to pay attention going. Wow. And the bad thing is I can't edit it out. Like, I can't edit out what I just said. It keeps a train of thought on the track. So this is good for me. I like doing this format. And it's just something that's easy to do. It's easy to edit because you don't even have to edit it. So Kershaw, good morning, sir. I've been watching your videos. It's so nice to hear from you some information that really helps a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Kershaw. Maayong Buntag, David Purcell. How is the smoking ban I keep hearing about? Christopher, thank you for that. Yeah, this is going to be allegedly a nationwide smoking ban like it is in the city of Davao. So we'll see what happens with that. Oh, yes, the Big Island, the Kona Coast, Kailua. Very nice area. All right, good for you, man. That's a very nice area. It's very nice. Waimea Falls, I believe. Or Hakona Falls? Hakona Falls? I remember that area. All right, so let's get right into it, because I'm sure people have better things to do. So I'm going to go through the first part, and then we'll go back to the comments. Again, and I'm not trying to be negative on the Philippines. These are actually headlines I pulled out of CNN Philippines, ABS, all those networks. And a lot of times, as everybody knows, around the world, news is kind of negative. It's talking about the bad stuff. It's never talking about the good stuff. And there is a lot of good stuff here. But these are some bad things that happen sometimes. And there's also a interesting development that we'll get to at the end. All right, so first up. Unfortunately, I have to report that 3 South Korean nationals were shot dead recently in the Philippines. 3 South Korean nationals were murdered this week in Pampanga, a continuation of the nearly 10 Koreans killed in the Philippines every year since 2013. Now, Pampanga, I believe, is a province up in central Luzon. I believe San Fernando and Angeles City are part of that. The bodies of the 2 South Koreans, 2 men and 1 woman, all over age 40, were found with gunshot wounds to the head. Now, this is indicative of the extrajudicial killings that are going on with the drug dealers, although no placards saying pushers were found on the bodies. The woman's wrists were tied and one of the male victim's legs were bound. The South Korean consulate is reported to be working with Philippine investigators, but no suspects or motives have been identified. One thing we forget, us white expats, us white foreigners living in the Philippines, us Westerners from Canada, the U.S., Australia, New Zealand, UK, and all that, Europe, forget is that the vast majority of foreigners in the Philippines are actually Asian. They're from China, they're from South Korea, they're from Japan. They're vacationing here because it's very inexpensive for them to vacation here, or they're going to school here. There's a lot of South Korean students in Dumaguete alone because it's a university town, and school here tuition costs a lot less than it does in their home nations. So that's a horrible happening. It's something that happens. As a matter of fact, most of the murders of foreigners occur in Pampanga, I believe. Basically because of Angeles City, which is basically sort of a den of iniquity. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on up there, and people get themselves into bad situations. When you have a population that doesn't really know what's going on, you get these tourists coming over there for whatever reason they're going over there for. They get targeted by the locals because most of the people coming here are clueless when they first come, or some are clueless even after they've been here for 3 years, and they get targeted. And that's one thing that we have to keep in mind, because although Chinese, Japanese, and South Koreans are Asian and Filipinos are Asian, they do look different. So let's go back to the comments. Brought to you by My Philippine Dreams, recounting one American's trials, tribulations, and misadventures in the Philippines. Koreans, Scott says, Koreans in Pampanga, yes, Angeles, probably up to no good. Yeah, there's a lot of sex tourism. That is like the mecca for sex tourism in the Philippines for everybody. That and Cebu, the bigger cities. Some vloggers will report that Dumaguete is a destination for sexpats, but don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. The whole town goes to sleep by like 9 o'clock. Martin says, Sikihor is nice. Go have your feet chewed by the fish. Yep. Actually, you can do that for Twin Lakes, too. Also hope your knees are good if you go to the waterfalls there. The stairs are steep from the falls. Yeah, we're probably going to check out that. We're probably just going to stay one night, so we're going to do 2 days, 1 night, and we'll try to check that out. Akaka Falls? I think that's right. Yeah, Akaka Falls. That's a beautiful place. That's near north of Hilo, near Hanamu, I believe. Casey asks, Ned, do you miss New England? Yes, especially this time of the year. With the seasons changing and the foliage changing and the nice, crisp, dry air as opposed to our 89% humidity that we have right now. It's 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, I do miss New England. I like the seasons. Nuclear, how's the Honda Click doing? The Honda Click's doing great. It's got like 1,200 kilometers on it now, and I'm going to be doing an update on that. It's a great bike. For your type, it all depends on what your driving style is. When I came here, I had certain Philippine dreams. I had certain expectations, and when I actually got here and I got the big bikes, I realized that they're just not real practical for my driving style. Most of my driving is done in the city, around the suburbs of the city. Sometimes we'll go on longer trips, and actually the Click's okay on that too. It's not as comfortable as a big bike going on a long ride. But when most of your riding is urban, it's good to have an urban utility vehicle like a Yamaha Mio, Honda Click, or the Honda Beat. Those are great bikes. Or the Suzuki makes the Address, I believe. And with a fuel injection and all that, they get excellent gas mileage. All right, moving on. This one's actually an important one that people have to keep in mind. Australian national released from Philippine prison. So what I do is I don't cut and paste the news articles because you get killed on Google AdSense if they ever caught you doing. Plus they'd bury you in the search results. So I just basically rewrite all these. Good news for Damien Berg, an Australian national who was recently released from prison after charges of drug distribution were dismissed by a Philippines court. Now back in his home country, Australia, he is able to provide a first-hand account of what it's like to be a victim of the Philippines' violent war on drugs. In a split second, my life was gone, Berg reports. I was taken from my pregnant girlfriend. I lost my job. Arrested on June 20th in an alleged buy-bust operation, Berg stated that he was arrested, locked up, and put on trial for a crime he didn't commit. A few weeks before his arrest, President Duterte had been elected to office and vowed to violently deal with the insidious drug problems facing the Philippine people. The Australian, who worked as a manager for the massive Philippine engineering company First Balfour, you've probably seen the trucks all over the place, was allegedly arrested, selling 50 tabs of MDMA ecstasy to Jeremy Eaton, a Canadian national. The buy-bust operation and arrest allegedly occurred in Makati City, which is a nice town, which is also, as we reported last time in This Week in the Philippines, isn't supposed to have a drug problem. Recovered CCTV footage, however, showed that Berg was not arrested on the street but at Red Planet Hotel as police forced their way into his small hotel room with drawn handguns. And if you've ever stayed at Red Planet, you'll know what I'm talking about. They're tiny little broom closets. The Australian thought it was some kind of robbery. Following his arrest, Berg's bewildered self was dragged in front of the press and then locked up in a police holding cell for a month with a dozen other prisoners. Okay, so this is in the police holding cell. He's locked up in a cell with a dozen other people. And basically, if you're going to lie down, you have to be curled up in a fetal position to fit. After a month, he was then transferred to the horrible, his words, Makati prison, a high-security prison with a decidedly nasty reputation. Luckily, in this case, the wheels of Philippine justice turned swiftly, and Berg was acquitted of the trafficking charges on September 15th, nearly 90 days after his arrest. So he had been locked up, and I'm going to say for only 90 days before he was acquitted, because this is kind of unprecedented. When there's a no-bail drug trafficking, murder, or sex offense lodged against somebody, they're usually in there for years waiting trial. Also, and that happens in the U.S. too. The court noted that evidence belied the claim of the prosecution and destroyed the integrity of the testimonies. So basically what happened was the reports from the investigators didn't match up, and there was a lot of BS noted in it. Berg notes, I have thought about this every night, especially after when I was incarcerated. I can only imagine. I still don't know what happened. All things considered, the Australian was very lucky to have gotten out as quickly as he did. No details of intervention from either the Philippine government, and this is my supposition, or Australian embassy was provided. But considering the quagmire of the justice system, we can only assume that someone, somewhere, expedited the proceedings. Mr. Berg is now back in Australia with his partner Marvy, awaiting the birth of their first child, a son. And there's a couple photos on the website of them. So that is a horror show. You guys have seen, I'm sure, the shows or excerpts from the shows Locked Up Abroad. I've told you that I've visited, not been incarcerated, but visited the prisons here, a federal prison and a local provincial lockup on a few occasions. And it's not a fun place to be. There's no air conditioning. You can't have a Kindle. It's pretty rough. And usually, like we noted, the wheels of the justice system in the Philippines move slowly. So he was very fortunate. He was very fortunate. And there's a lot of foreigners locked up all over the Philippines. I mean, once claims get lodged against somebody, it can be a really bad situation. So as foreigners, as expats living here, we don't want to put ourselves in bad situations. We don't want to be hanging around with the wrong people or hanging around in the wrong places, or even worse, a combination of the two. Back to the comments. Here we go. Bill J. Trump is consulting with one of Bill Cosby's lawyers. Oh boy, here we go. Yes, Kermit the Frog, Michelle is sleeping. She actually went to bed early last night. She went to bed around 2, which is early for her. So she'll be up soon. I told her not, because the bedroom's right over there, so I had to warn her about the live cast, not to come stumbling out. Michelle C. Poker, don't you miss NFL football? No, I don't watch football. I watch UFC. Love that UFC stuff. And the Bellator stuff. It's crazy. Aloe Winter, Clinton or Trump. We're not going to talk politics. Bill J., there is also Rainbow Falls in the same area. In case you don't know, we're talking about the Big Island of Hawaii. There's two coasts. There's the Kona Coast and the Puna Coast. Puna butter. Hilo is on the Puna Coast. Kailua is on the West Coast. And it wouldn't be a bad place to end up in a couple of years. Martin asked a good question. Do people get hay fever in the Philippines? It's hay fever season here in Oz at the moment. Hold on 1 minute. Now, another challenge of living in the Philippines, living, retiring, studying, working in the Philippines, is allergies. I have allergies to something here. I'm not sure what it is, but I get caught up with sneezing, runny nose, red eyes, all that stuff. I think it might be mangoes. And because I heard that when people move to Florida, retirees move to Florida, about 20% of them are allergic to mangoes. And they never knew it because they weren't living in Florida before. Luckily, the government subsidizes Sertrazine. Now, Sertrazine, I believe, is its brand name is some very expensive drug in the Philippines. I forgot what it was. But here in the Philippines, these are only 3 pesos each. These are one of the subsidized drugs in the Philippines because I guess so many people have a need for antihistamines due to hay fever or allergies or whatever. So I usually buy these by the box of 100. I also buy Tramadol, Ultram, by boxes of 100, and again, Tramadol is also 3 pesos a pill, so that's a good deal. Scott reports that his wife will sleep for days if not disturbed. They're the most amazing sleepers, and they can sleep anywhere. I've got the photos of guys sleeping on their scooters during their lunch break down by Portal West, and they do it every day. They literally lie on their seat, their legs are propped up on the handlebars, and they're out. And, you know, I got the photos of the guy on the construction vehicle, and he's sleeping. Yeah, I wish I could sleep like that, man. I am so jealous, because I have so many sleep issues. Ugh, I get so jealous. David asks, your wife is from Mindanao. Do you feel safe visiting that area? No, I wouldn't feel safe visiting certain areas of Mindanao. You know, and again, all apologies to everybody living down in Mindanao. I know there's foreigners living there, and they haven't been kidnapped or beheaded yet. But the possibility does exist. And in most parts, outside of Davao, and even like CDO and stuff, there's not many white people. There's not many foreigners. So when you're, you know, gallivanting, and Mindanao is a huge island. It's massive. And when you're gallivanting around, you are a target. It's not like Dumaguete or, you know, Manila or Davao or Cebu, where there's lots of white people and lots of foreigners. So when you're in a situation like that, you can be identified. And you got Abu Sayyaf down there. You got MNLF. You got BIFF. You got all the acronyms. And some say it's for ideology that they're kidnapping people and raising money for their groups and stuff. But I think a lot of it just has to do with financial incentive. So long story short, I'd go to Davao. I'd go to CDO. But even was it Tepitan or Tepolog, which is in sight from, you can go down to the water here and see the port over in Mindanao. I think there was an Italian gentleman who was kidnapped out of his pizzeria that he had there, and he was held hostage, and I guess they paid, and he was released. Edward says, Ned just lost you. Yeah, we're on PLDT. This is the Philippines internet system, so it's not going to be that great. There's going to be buffering, and this is a live cast too. Bill J says, let's knock it off about Trump and Clinton. Yeah, great idea. Oh, what a mess, though. It's like a frickin' soap opera. It's like one of these Filipino serio novellas or telenovelas. What's going to come out next? All right, moving on. Let's move on to the last piece. And I'm not going to read this whole piece. So, yeah, never get yourself involved in either the civil or the criminal justice system in foreign countries, because there's not a whole lot, typically, that the embassy and the consulates can do for you. I mean, and that makes sense. I mean, if you get yourself in trouble here, it's on you. All right, finally, a massive Filipino business delegation trip to Beijing is occurring next week. President Rodrigo Duterte is putting aside years of hostility in China next week when he and nearly 250 Philippine business owners visit Beijing to seek new partnerships in trade, business, and investment. Filipino business leaders are seeking to network with Chinese business peers in order to create new relationships in a variety of governmental and private sectors, including general construction, tourism, agriculture, power production, transportation, and low-cost manufacturing. So this is pretty interesting because, you know, if you've been following the news, President Duterte has been distancing, God, I wish I could edit that out, distancing himself from the United States, from Europe, because a lot of times all the trade and the support have come from the United States. And he got very upset. His Amor Proprio was violated, and he experienced when President Obama and some other officials called him out on the killings. So they're aiming now towards Russia and China. And this started as a trip that was only supposed to be like 12 to 15 people, but they opened it up to the business community, and 250 people signed up to go along. And there's a waiting list, I think, of over 100 people. So they're trying to forge closer ties with China, which makes sense. I mean, they're their neighbors. They're all part, you know, they get the South China Sea stuff going on. You got the tribunal pronouncement that was handed down saying that, you know, it's the Philippines, it's not China's. China didn't like that, so there was all that animosity. There's been warships floating around. There's been build-up. The Chinese have been, like, building some of these islands and airstrips. So it's gotten kind of crazy. So it looks like they're trying to forge relations there. And there's one point, the Philippines finance minister stated this past week that President Duterte would request billions of dollars worth of infrastructure investments from China. And I'm not sure if it was billions, but they said billions, so I only assumed it was dollars. I don't know, it could be pesos, which would mean millions. China is also reported to be lifting a ban on some Philippine agricultural exports as an indication of goodwill towards the Philippines president. Which, that was very nice. It's a nice gesture. Francis Chua, CHUA, a chairman within the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, stated, "We do have a very popular president, and the president decided that he wanted to have a better relationship with China. We are neighbors. This is actually what the president is thinking. Instead of fighting, why don't we all just be friends?" Language from Beijing's ambassador to the Philippines was a little more flowery. The clouds are fading away. The sun is rising over the horizon and will shine beautifully on the new chapter of bilateral relations. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens. He's also extending overtures towards Russia, and so we'll see what happens. I mean, China can benefit because I think, and I don't follow the news that much, but a lot of cheap labor used to come out of China, but I heard the prices of labor there have increased, so maybe they're looking to outsource BPO some of their work to the Philippines. Maybe an exchange can take place there. I'm not sure. But if you like Unitop, if you like the dollar stores here in the Philippines, that's good news because that means more good quality Chinese products are going to be flowing in. I love Unitop. Alright, so those are 3 things that could affect us as foreigners living in the Philippines, as expatriates, living, working, studying, retiring here. There's still a lot of uncertainty, although they did also release that the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank or one of those people said that the Philippines economy grew the most in all of Asia. I think it was 6.7% in the first 7 months. Then President Duterte became president, and since then a lot of foreign investment has fallen off. There's been Unitop rocks. Absolutely, Christopher. Love Unitop. And so we'll see what happens. Martin says, we'll be in Dumaguete for 4 weeks in November. Before I was allowed to take leave, I had to access the Smart Traveler website and read the travel warnings. Yeah, it's always good to get as much information as you can before you go someplace. What kind of inoculation should you get? If you are coming to the Philippines, make sure you get your twin RX inoculations. That's the hepatitis A and hepatitis B. And you have to space them out. There's 2 shots you have to get. And I think you have to space them out like 3 to 5 weeks apart. So make sure you get there, because I've known more than a few people here who have gotten hepatitis A or hepatitis B. And you know where you get that from. Ugh. Van Turner, notice those are both kind of communist countries. Yeah, I don't know if there's any real communist countries left. Although I guess Cuba. Martin said one warning was about resorts along the south coast of Dumaguete. The south coast of Negros. It's all resorts down there. You got beautiful high-end resorts. Christopher, Ned, how are you feeling about the political stuff and Americans over in PH? I am still heading over there in the next month or so, but I have some fears regarding those EJK. I read a foreigner. I just really don't talk about it much. We don't talk about the crew that I hang out with. We don't talk politics. It's more of an international coalition. And again, I joke around and say that I'm from Vancouver, eh? Because yeah, right now American politics is kind of crazy. Alright, so we will be probably traveling this weekend. I probably won't be back till Monday. I usually do my little other live cast. Because somebody asked me a really good question. They said, Ned, how has living in the Philippines and your relationship with Michelle changed you as a person? And I thought that was a pretty profound question. Hopefully I can come up with an equally profound answer. It has changed me in a number of ways, and that's something that I'm going to be addressing in my next live cast, which is going to be all about me. So, that's about it for this live cast. Thank you all for the comments. And again, don't forget that we have the free ebook over on our website. You can get that at myphilippinedreams.com. There's a bunch of articles and stuff, expense reports, tracking our travels around the Philippines. We're going to try to be traveling some more. Michelle is trying to get another job right now, but she's also trying to get a job where she can work remotely, so she can be basically what they call home-based here. And before I go, I'm going to tell you one more story. Michelle made me some coconut balls. Actually, she made a lot of coconut balls. And I know it sounds kind of gross, but it's not actually, balls from coconuts. It's actually this little confectionery delight, and in the middle of it is marshmallow, and there's something wrapped around it, and then there's like coconut shavings on top of it. So when she was making this, I've actually had them before, and they're really good. And when she was making this, hi sweetie, I found this bin in the refrigerator, and it was like this brown pasty substance. And I asked Michelle, I said, Michelle, what is this? And she says, oh, it's gray ham for the coconut balls. And I looked at it, and I'm like, and I know they love pork in the Philippines. They love pork. They love pig. So I was like, gray ham? So this is actually pork wrapped around a marshmallow and covered in coconut shavings. And she finally corrected me. She says, no, it's gray ham crackers. And I was like, graham crackers. So again, sometimes the pronunciation, like a lot of things, is different here in the Philippines. So they're really good. I ate like 15 of them last night. They're not good for you because it's basically a lot of sugar. Yeah, what it is it's the marshmallow in the middle, these little marshmallows that they get. And then it's a mixture of crushed up graham cracker and condensed milk that they let coagulate. They wrap around it, and then they put either like jimmies on it, sprinkles, or coconut shavings, and it's really good. So that's my gray ham story for this week. Gray ham, I thought it was old pork. I'm like, wow, you guys really love pork. So that's it. Y'all take care. Don't forget to like, dislike, subscribe, leave comments down in the comment section. All your comments, now when this turns into a video, all your comments get deleted. So it is what it is. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you are all well. This is Ned over at My Philippine Dreams, and we'll see you next time.